The ship moved through the darkness of space like a small silver fish swimming into the mouth of a whale. Captain Park stood at the bridge window and watched as the Nexus station grew larger and larger. It was the biggest thing any human had ever seen. The station stretched across thousands of kilometers, with lights blinking from millions of windows. Ships of every shape and size flew around it like insects around a bright lamp. Felt his heart beating fast. This was the moment humanity had worked toward for 200 years. They had finally built ships that could travel faster than light. They had finally found other life in the universe. And now, they were about to meet the Galactic Council, the rulers of 47 different species spread across the galaxy. Behind him, Ambassador checked her documents one more time. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and a calm face. Before this mission, she had spent 20 years solving problems between nations on Earth. Now she had the biggest job of her life. She had to convince aliens to accept humanity as equals. "How do I look?" she asked with a small smile. "Like someone who is about to make history," he replied. The ship docked at the station. When the doors opened, a wave of strange smells and sounds hit them. The air was warm and thick. Creatures of all kinds walked through the massive hallways. Some had 4 legs, some had tentacles, some floated above the ground. Many of them stopped to stare at the humans with expressions that were hard to read. A tall creature with blue skin and 4 eyes approached them. Its name was, and it was the High Arbiter of the species. They were the oldest and most powerful species in the Council. They had been traveling through space when humans were still living in caves. "So," said, looking down at the humans with what seemed like boredom, "these are the Earthlings." "We prefer to be called humans," said politely. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with us. We come with great respect and hope for friendship." Made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Friendship, yes, follow me." They were led through long corridors into a massive circular room. Hundreds of aliens sat in rising seats that surrounded a central platform. This was the council chamber. Every species had representatives here. Every species had a voice. Every species except humanity. Walked to the center platform. She could feel thousands of eyes watching her. Some were curious. Many were hostile. A few seemed amused, as if watching a child try to join a conversation between adults. She began her speech. She talked about Earth's history. She talked about humanity's struggles and achievements. She talked about their desire to learn, to trade, to share knowledge. She talked about peace. When she finished, there was silence, then stood up. "We have reviewed your species," he said. His voice echoed through the chamber. "We have studied your history, and we have reached a decision." He pressed a button and suddenly huge screens appeared all around the chamber. On those screens were images from Earth's past. Wars, bombs exploding, cities burning, soldiers fighting, blood and death everywhere. "This is what you are," said. "Violent, primitive, dangerous. You have been killing each other since you first walked on 2 legs. You have poisoned your own planet. You have built weapons that could destroy everything." Tried to speak, but raised his hand. "We have seen enough species like yours," he continued. "Young, aggressive, unable to control themselves. You are not ready for the galaxy. Perhaps you will never be ready." The other council members began to make sounds of agreement. Some laughed. Others nodded their heads or waved their tentacles. "Therefore," announced, "your request for membership is, you are forbidden from traveling beyond your own star system. You are forbidden from trading with any council species. Any violation of these rules will be treated as an act of war." The words hit like physical blows. She had prepared for many outcomes. She had prepared for long negotiations, for difficult compromises. She had not prepared for complete rejection. She had not prepared for humiliation. "You cannot do this," she said, keeping her voice steady even though her hands were shaking. "We have done nothing wrong. We came here in peace." "Peace?" laughed. "Your species does not know the meaning of that word. Go back to your little planet, human. Stay there. and be grateful that we do not destroy you now before you become a real threat." The council members laughed again. The sound filled the chamber like the roar of a cruel ocean. Stepped forward, his face red with anger. Two of his officers had to hold him back. He wanted to shout. He wanted to fight, but touched his arm gently. "No," she whispered, "not here, not now." She turned back to face. Her face was calm, but her eyes burned with something cold and hard. "High Arbiter," she said, her voice clear and quiet, "I want you to remember this moment. I want you to remember that we came here offering friendship. We came here with open hands and honest hearts. We asked for nothing but a chance." She paused, looking around at all the aliens who had laughed at her species. "You have made your choice," she continued. "You have chosen to treat us as enemies. You have chosen to mock us and cage us like animals. So be it. But remember, we offered friendship first. Whatever comes next, remember that it was your choice." The chamber fell silent. Something in her voice made even pause, but then he shook his head and waved his hand dismissively. "Leave," he said, "and do not come back." Bowed slightly, though there was no respect in the gesture. Then she turned and walked out of the chamber, and the other humans followed her. They did not look back. As their ship undocked and began the long journey home, stood next to on the bridge. Outside the window, the Nexus station grew smaller and smaller until it was just another point of light among millions. "What do we do now?" asked. Watched the stars in silence for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft but filled with iron. "Now," she said, "we prepare." Behind them, in the council chamber, the celebrations continued. The aliens congratulated themselves on putting the primitive humans in their place. They laughed and drank and told jokes about the small species from the small planet at the edge of the galaxy. They did not understand what they had done. They did not understand who they had insulted. They thought humanity would simply accept their fate and fade away into silence. They were wrong. They were very, very wrong. 6 months passed after the humiliation at the Nexus. On Earth, the news of the Council's decision spread like wildfire. At first there was shock, then sadness. Then slowly something else began to grow in the hearts of 8 billion people. It was anger, deep, quiet, patient anger. The governments of Earth united in a way they never had before. Old enemies became allies. Old arguments were forgotten. For the first time in human history, there was truly one Earth, one people, one purpose. They began building ships. They began training soldiers. They began preparing for a future that no one wanted but everyone knew was coming. Fleet Commander Rose stood in the command center of Earth's orbital defense station. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had fought in 3 wars on Earth before taking command of the United Defense Force. He had seen terrible things in his life, but nothing had prepared him for what was about to happen. "Sir," said Lieutenant Myra, his tactical officer, "we are detecting a massive energy signature at the edge of the solar system." Walked to the main screen. His blood ran cold. Ships were appearing out of nowhere, dozens of them, then hundreds, then thousands. They kept coming and coming, pouring out of faster-than-light travel like water from a broken dam. The screen filled with red dots until it was almost solid red. "How many?" asked, his voice barely a whisper. Myra checked her instruments 3 times before answering. "Over 4,000 warships, sir. 11 different species. It is the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history." Closed his eyes for a moment. Earth's entire fleet numbered only 340 ships. They were outnumbered more than 10 to 1. A communication signal came through. Opened the channel. His face appeared on the screen, smiling with cruel satisfaction. "Humans," the High Arbiter said, "we have decided that your species is too dangerous to leave alone. You will surrender immediately. You will disarm all your ships. You will accept our governors on your planet. You have 1 hour to comply. If you refuse, we will destroy your fleet, bomb your cities, and take what we want by force." The transmission ended. Stood very still. Around him his officers looked terrified. Some were pale, some had tears in their eyes. They all knew what this meant. They all knew they were going to die. But did not feel fear. He felt something else entirely. He felt the same cold fire that had burned in Ambassador's eyes 6 months ago. He opened a channel to every human ship, every colony, every station in the solar system. His voice was calm and steady. "This is Fleet Commander Rowe. The enemy has come to our home. They have come to take our freedom. They have come to make us slaves. They think we are weak. They think we will surrender. They think wrong." He paused, looking at the sea of red dots on the screen. "Today we fight. Not because we want to, not because we think we can win easily. We fight because this is our home. These are our families. This is everything we are and everything we will ever be. They want to take that from us. We will not let them." His voice grew stronger. "Every ship that falls, fall with honor. Every life given, give it for something worthy. Let them see what humans are made of. Let them remember this day forever. Show them what we protect." Across the solar system, human ships powered up their engines. Soldiers checked their weapons. Pilots said goodbye to their families. Everyone knew the odds. Everyone knew most of them would not survive. But not one person ran. Not one person surrendered. The Battle of Sol began. The Council fleet moved toward Earth in a massive formation, confident in their overwhelming numbers. They expected the humans to break and run. They expected easy victory. Instead, the humans attacked. Small, fast ships dove into the enemy formation, firing missiles and then disappearing behind moons and asteroids. Automated freighters loaded with nuclear bombs flew directly into the largest enemy vessels and exploded. Drone swarms, thousands of tiny machines working together, tore through shields and armor. The Council ships were bigger and more powerful, but they were slow. They were used to fighting enemies who followed predictable patterns. The humans followed no patterns. They used tactics that seemed insane. They sacrificed themselves without hesitation. They turned their own deaths into weapons. Lieutenant Myra coordinated the drone swarms from her station, her fingers flying across the controls. She watched as 3 Council cruisers exploded under her attacks. Then she saw a human carrier, the Soul, ram directly into an enemy battleship. Both ships disappeared in a ball of fire. 2,000 humans died in that moment, taking 5,000 enemies with them. "The Soul is gone," she reported, her voice shaking. "I know," said quietly, "keep fighting." The battle lasted for 18 hours. It was the most brutal conflict the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships fell one after another. Mars' colony was bombed. Europa Station was destroyed. Millions of humans died. But the Council fleet was being destroyed too. Every hour, more and more enemy ships exploded or retreated. The humans would not stop fighting. No matter how many died, the survivors kept attacking, kept pushing, kept refusing to give up. When it was finally over, Earth had lost 280 ships. 60 vessels remained, most of them badly damaged. The human death toll was over 12 million. But the Council fleet was shattered. Out of 4,000 ships, only 1,100 limped away from the solar system. The rest were debris floating in the darkness of space. Stood on the bridge of his damaged station, looking at the wreckage that surrounded Earth. His face was covered in blood from a wound on his forehead. His uniform was torn. His hands would not stop shaking. Myra approached him. She was crying, though she did not seem to know it. "We won," she said. "Somehow we won." "Yes," replied, but there was no joy in his voice. He looked at the list of destroyed ships, the names of the dead scrolling endlessly on his screen. So many friends, so many heroes, so many people who would never go home. He opened a communication channel. This time he broadcast to the entire galaxy. Every species, every planet, every station would hear his words. This is Fleet Commander Rowe of the United Earth Defense Force. You came to our home. You came to destroy us. You failed." He paused, letting the words sink in. "We did not want this war. We asked for peace. You answered with violence. Now hear this: we will rebuild. We will recover. And when we are ready, we will come for you. You brought war to our doorstep. Now we bring it to yours." The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, aliens watched in stunned silence. The primitive humans, the weak species from the backwater planet, had defeated the greatest fleet ever assembled. It was impossible. It should not have happened. But it had happened. And now, for the first time, the galaxy began to feel something it had never felt toward humans before. Fear. The galaxy waited for humanity to die. After the Battle of Sol, the Council expected the humans to collapse. Their fleet was destroyed. Their colonies were burned. Millions of their people were dead. Surely, the Council thought, they would fall into civil war. Surely they would starve. Surely they would fade away like so many other young species before them. So the Council returned to their normal lives. They continued their trade. They continued their politics. They continued their comfortable belief that they were the masters of the galaxy. Occasionally, someone would mention the humans, and everyone would laugh nervously and change the subject. 5 years passed. No human ship was seen outside the Sol system. No human message was broadcast to the galaxy. It was as if they had simply disappeared. "They are finished," High Arbiter announced at a council meeting. "The humans have retreated into their little corner of space to die. We have nothing more to fear from them." The council members nodded and applauded. They congratulated themselves on their victory. They celebrated their safety. They were making the worst mistake in galactic history. Inside the Sol system, humanity was not dying. They were transforming. Admiral stood at the window of a massive shipyard hidden in the belt, the ring of ice and rock at the edge of the solar system. Behind him, robots and workers moved with incredible speed, building warships on assembly lines that stretched for hundreds of kilometers. He checked the production numbers on his tablet. 2,000 new warships completed, 3,000 more under construction, weapons systems that the galaxy had never seen, engine technology that made Council ships look like ancient relics. "How is the quantum drive project progressing?" he asked. Dr. Lee, a small woman with glasses and wild hair, looked up from her computer screens. She had not slept in 3 days, but her eyes were bright with excitement. "We have done it, Admiral," she said. "The new faster-than-light drive works perfectly. It is twice as fast as Council technology, and more importantly, their sensors cannot detect it. We can appear anywhere in the galaxy without warning." Allowed himself a small smile. "Excellent. What about the stealth systems?" "Complete. Our ships can now hide from any detection system in known space. To Council sensors, we will be invisible." On another station, Intelligence Chief Han sat in a dark room filled with screens and holographic displays. Information flowed across the walls like waterfalls of light. She had spent the last 5 years building the most extensive spy network the galaxy had ever seen. She knew everything. She knew which Council species hated each other. She knew their secret trade routes and hidden military bases. She knew their communication codes and their commander's personal weaknesses. She knew what ate for breakfast and who he was having affairs with. Her network included thousands of agents spread across 30 star systems. Some were humans in disguise. Others were aliens who had been bought, blackmailed, or convinced to betray their own species. Many were simply listening devices, hidden in places no one would ever think to look. "Chief Han," one of her analysts said, "we have new information about the defense fleet." "Show me," she replied. The analyst pulled up a detailed map. "They have pulled most of their ships back to protect their and 3 key colonies. They think the threat is over. Their patrols are minimal. Their readiness levels are at peacetime standards." Smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. Good, she said, very good. In the capital city of Earth, Ambassador met with the new President Park. They sat in a quiet room, looking at reports and maps. The people want revenge, said. They want us to attack now. They say we have waited long enough. Shook her head. Revenge is not enough. If we attack now with anger and without planning, we might win some battles, but we will not win the war. We will not make them understand what they did wrong. Then what do you suggest? Leaned forward, her eyes intense. We do not just want to defeat them. We want to teach them. We want them to feel what we felt. We want them to experience the same humiliation, the same helplessness, the same realization that everything they believed about themselves was wrong. She pointed to a map of the galaxy. When we strike everywhere at once. We destroy their military, not their people. We capture their leaders, not kill them. We force them to watch as everything they built comes crashing down. And then, when they are on their knees, we offer them the choice they never gave us. Studied the map for a long moment. That will require perfect timing, perfect intelligence, perfect coordination. Yes, agreed. That is why we have spent 5 years preparing. That is why every human has sacrificed and worked and waited. We are ready now. We were not ready before. On the anniversary of the Battle of Sol, Admiral addressed every human in the solar system. His face appeared on screens across Earth, Mars, the rebuilt Europa, and dozens of space stations. 5 years ago they came to destroy us. They thought we were weak. They thought we would break. They thought wrong. He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. For 5 years we have prepared. We have built. We have learned. We have transformed our pain into purpose, our grief into strength, our anger into focus. Now the time for waiting is over. Behind him, the massive doors of the hidden shipyard opened. Thousands of ships, dark and sleek and deadly, began to move into formation. They were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. They were humanity's answer to every insult, every death, every moment of humiliation. They silenced us once, said. Now we will silence them, not with cruelty, not with genocide, but with justice. They will learn that humanity does not forget, humanity does not forgive, and humanity does not lose. Across the solar system, 2,000 ships activated their quantum drives. In perfect silence, they disappeared from Council sensors, racing toward the stars at speeds that should have been impossible. The galaxy had been watching the empty border of the Sol system for 5 years, waiting for signs of human activity. They were looking in the wrong direction. By the time they realized what was happening, it would be far, far too late. The silence was finally over. And the reckoning had begun. That was called Prime. It was a beautiful planet with purple oceans and silver forests. 40 billion lived there, proud in the knowledge that their species had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. They had never been invaded. They had never been defeated. They believed they never would be. On a quiet morning, the sky above their capital city filled with fire. Human ships appeared without warning, dropping out of quantum space directly above the planet. The defense fleet, caught completely by surprise, had no time to react. Within 20 minutes, every orbital platform was destroyed. Every defensive satellite was floating debris. On the surface, Admiral broadcast a message to the terrified population. Citizens of Prime, we are not here to destroy you. We are not here to kill your families or burn your cities. We are here for one purpose only, justice. Stay in your homes, do not resist, and you will not be harmed. Human Marines landed in the capital. They moved through the streets in perfect formation, their weapons ready but their fingers off the triggers. Civilians watched from windows as the soldiers passed, too shocked to do anything but stare. High Arbiter was in his palace when the doors exploded inward. He tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. Human soldiers surrounded him, their faces hard and expressionless behind their helmets. Said the squad leader, a woman named Sargent, by order of the United Earth Government, you are under arrest for crimes against humanity. Come quietly, or we will make you come. For the first time in his long life felt real fear, not the small concerns of politics or power, true animal fear, the kind that prey feels when it looks into the eyes of a predator. You cannot do this, he said, his voice shaking. I am the High Arbiter, the Council will. The Council, interrupted, is busy right now. She was right. Across the galaxy, human fleets were striking at 11 different species simultaneously. Every government that had sent ships to attack Earth was now under assault. Supply lines were being cut. Military bases were being destroyed. Communication networks were collapsing. On the Nexus station, chaos reigned. Council members screamed at each other, demanding answers, demanding help, demanding someone to blame. Reports flooded in from every corner of the galaxy. The humans were everywhere. The humans were unstoppable. The humans seemed to know exactly where to strike, exactly when to attack, exactly how to cause maximum damage. Intelligence Chief Han watched the chaos from a secure location, a small smile on her face. 5 years of careful preparation was paying off perfectly. Every piece of information she had gathered, every spy she had planted, every secret she had stolen, it was all being used now. Chief Han, one of her officers, reported, the Third Fleet is moving to reinforce there. Let them come, she replied. Admiral is expecting them. When the reinforcements arrived, they found the human fleet waiting in perfect ambush positions. The battle lasted less than an hour. The lost everything. On Prime was brought before a camera. Behind him, his beautiful capital city was untouched, not a single building damaged, not a single civilian harmed. The humans had been true to their word. They had come for justice, not destruction. Read it, said Ambassador, handing him a document. His hands trembled as he looked at the paper. It was an apology, a full confession of everything the Council had done to humanity, the mockery at the first meeting, the unjust restrictions, the unprovoked attack on Earth, the millions of innocent humans killed. I will not read this, said. I am the High Arbiter. I do not apologize to primitives. Leaned close to him. Her voice was soft but carried more threat than any weapon. You will read it, she said, or we will broadcast recordings of your personal communications to the entire galaxy. We know about your corruption. We know about your secret accounts. We know about everything, everything. The color drained from his face. He looked at the paper again. Then slowly he began to read. His confession was broadcast to every species in the galaxy. Billions of aliens watched as the most powerful leader in known space wept and apologized, admitting that the Council had wronged humanity, that they had attacked an innocent species, that they had brought this devastation upon themselves. The humiliation was complete. One by one, the other Council species surrendered. They had no choice. Their fleets were destroyed. Their leaders were captured. Their secrets were exposed. The humans had not killed many civilians. Their strikes had been surgical and precise. But they had systematically dismantled every structure of power that the Council had built over thousands of years. Ambassador returned to the Nexus station. She walked through the same halls where she had been mocked 5 years ago, the same halls where aliens had laughed at her species. Now, those halls were silent. The aliens who passed her looked away, unable to meet her eyes. She entered the Council chamber. The seats that had once been filled with confident, sneering faces were now occupied by frightened, defeated beings. Sat in his chair, a broken shell of the proud leader he had once been. Walked to the center platform. She looked around at the assembled representatives of 47 species. She remembered standing in this exact spot, offering friendship, receiving mockery in return. You had a chance, she said, her voice calm and clear. We came to you with open hands. We asked for nothing but a place among you. You chose to laugh at us. You chose to attack us. You chose to try to destroy us. She paused, letting the silence stretch. We do not want your extinction. We do not want your suffering. We want what we always wanted: respect, equality, justice. She pulled out a document and placed it on the podium. These are our terms: full membership for humanity in the Galactic Assembly, complete reparations for the attack on our solar system, dissolution of the Council's military command structure, a new peacekeeping force with representatives from all species, including humans. She looked at directly. You once told me to go back to my little planet and stay there. Now I am telling you, accept these terms, learn from this lesson, become better than you were, or next time we will not be so merciful. The Council voted. The result was unanimous. Humanity's terms were accepted. Every single one. 10 years had passed since the war ended. The galaxy had changed in ways no one could have imagined. The old Council was gone. In its place stood the Galactic Assembly, a new organization built on principles that would have seemed impossible a generation ago. Every species had equal voting power. Every dispute was resolved through negotiation. Every world, no matter how small or young, had a voice. Former Admiral sat in the human section of the assembly chamber on the Nexus station. He was older now, his hair completely white, his face lined with the weight of all he had seen and done. He no longer commanded fleets. Instead, he worked as Earth's primary representative, spending his days in meetings and negotiations. Some might have called it boring, called it victory. Beside him sat a young diplomat who had been only a child during the Battle of Saul. She had grown up hearing stories of the war, of the humiliation, of the sacrifice. Now she dedicated her life to making sure it never happened again. The vote on the Development Protection Act is in 2 hours, she reminded. We need 3 more species to support us. The Development Protection Act was humanity's biggest project since the war. It would establish rules protecting young species from exploitation, preventing advanced civilizations from taking advantage of those who were still learning to reach the stars. They are still opposing it, said with a frown. Some of them, corrected. Ambassador has been speaking in our favor. He says the new generation wants to move beyond the old ways. Nodded slowly. It had taken many years, but they were slowly changing. Had died 3 years after the war, broken and disgraced. The new leaders were different. They had seen what pride and cruelty had cost their species. Some of them genuinely wanted to be better. Not all of them, of course. There were still those who hated humanity, who dreamed of revenge, who whispered about the old days when they ruled everything. But they were fewer each year. Time was doing what weapons never could. The vote happened as scheduled. The Development Protection Act passed by a comfortable margin. Young species across the galaxy would now have legal protections against the kind of treatment humanity had suffered. It was not perfect. Laws never were. But it was progress. After the vote, found standing at a window, looking out at the stars. Admiral, she said, are you all right? I was thinking about the old days, he replied. About what we went through to get here. Sometimes I wonder if it was worth it. All the death, all the pain. You saved our species, said. You saved our future. We did terrible things too, said quietly. We destroyed fleets. We humiliated worlds. We became warriors when we wanted to be explorers. Sometimes I lie awake at night and wonder if we could have found another way. Stood beside him, looking at the same stars. Maybe, she said, but they did not give us a choice. And when we won, we chose mercy instead of destruction. We chose to build something better instead of ruling through fear. That matters, Admiral. That matters more than anything. Smiled, though his eyes were sad. You sound like Ambassador. She taught me everything I know. On Earth, retired intelligence chief Han walked through a memorial garden in Seoul. She was an old woman now, her hair gray, her movements slow. But her eyes were still sharp, still seeing things that others missed. Her granddaughter, a girl of about 8 years old named Han Sara, walked beside her, holding her hand. The memorial was filled with names. Thousands and thousands of names, carved into black stone walls that stretched across the garden. Each name was someone who had died in the Battle of Saul or the wars that followed. Each name was a story, a family, a life cut short. Grandmother, Sora asked, why did they fight? Stopped in front of a section of the wall. She found a name she knew well, a young lieutenant who had served under her, who had died getting information that saved millions of lives. Because they had to, she said. The galaxy wanted to put us in a cage, wanted to tell us we were not good enough, not worthy enough, not strong enough to stand with them. So we fought, not because we loved war, because we loved freedom more. But we are friends with the aliens now, Sora said. I have a friend at school from the species. Her name is impossible to say, but she is nice. Laughed softly. Yes, we are friends now, with most of them anyway. That is what we were fighting for, not to be better than everyone else, just to have the chance to be equal. They walked further through the garden. Sora pointed at a statue at the center, a human figure looking up at the stars, arms raised as if reaching for something just beyond grasp. Who was that? She asked. No one in particular, replied. It represents all of us, all of humanity. It is supposed to remind us why we fought and what we were reaching for. What were we reaching for? Knelt down so she was at eye level with her granddaughter. A place among the stars, a chance to show who we really are, not warriors, not conquerors, just people who wanted to explore, to learn, to grow, to make friends. She smiled. Like you and your friend. Above them, ships passed through the atmosphere. Human ships and alien ships flying side by side. Traders and explorers and diplomats and tourists, all sharing the same sky. In the assembly chamber was preparing for another vote, this time on establishing new trade routes that would bring prosperity to dozens of developing worlds. In a university on Mars, scientists from 6 different species worked together on a project that might one day allow travel to other galaxies. On a distant space station, a human doctor was teaching medical students, sharing knowledge that would save millions of lives. The galaxy was not perfect. Old hatred still simmered beneath the surface. New conflicts would come, as they always did. Some species still looked at humans with fear or resentment or jealousy. Peace was not a destination but a journey, requiring constant work and vigilance. But it was peace, real peace, the kind that humanity had asked for all those years ago, when Ambassador first walked into the council chamber with hope in her heart. On Earth, as the sun set over the memorial garden, and her granddaughter prepared to leave. Grandmother, Sora said, do you think the aliens will ever try to hurt us again? Looked at the sky, at the ships passing peacefully overhead, at the stars beginning to appear in the darkening blue. Maybe, she said honestly. The galaxy is large, and there are always those who choose violence over understanding. But if they do come for us again, they will find what the council found. What is that? Squeezed her granddaughter's hand. They will find that humanity does not break. We bend, we suffer, we grieve, but we do not break, we adapt, we endure, and when we must we rise, always, no matter what. The stars shone down on them, bright and cold and eternal. Somewhere out there, in the vast darkness between worlds, the story of humanity continued. A story of pain and hope, of war and peace, of reaching for something better even when it seemed impossible. The Council had antagonized Earth. The Retaliation had silenced the galaxy. And from that silence, a new song had begun. It was still being written. And it would never, ever end.